If you're looking to make solar simple, give Ron Domenico with AD Energy a call. All-day energy made simple. Solar solutions with zero down, options to lease or finance, and roofs and trees are no issue. Call Ron Domenico at 609-226-2802 and tell him you saw him on the Sports Box.
Well, hello again, and welcome to the show that just when you think you've had enough of us, we just follow you home. This is the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters. It's right here. I am Mike Galetta, a.k.a. Hamilton Mike, along with my partner, Brian, the Ranger Retard. Brian, how are you? Well, that's an understatement. How are the Rangers doing, Brian?
Good stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be a great show.
Good stuff.
As you can see, Brian is teaming ear to ear because of the Rangers' big win against Montreal. And as the Rangers move on to play Ottawa in the next round, we will talk about that with a great person on the line. He is one of the co-hosts of the Blueshirt Underground Radio station. Let's bring him on, Jim Schmiedeberg. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Now, you got the name right, but now we're the Blueshirt Underground Radio station.
We're taking over the world.
We're taking over the world, Jim. We're the Rangers win Ottawa this year. When they beat Ottawa, you're going to be the station. So
you make it sound like Eddie and I are sitting at the top of the Empire State Building.
Well, you can give me a little credit because I worked hard on that name. But anyway, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, you got the name right.
That's right. I got the name right. So kudos to me. So let's talk a little Rangers hockey, Jim. They had a good series against Montreal. I don't want to give the Rangers discredit them by saying the Habs blew it, but the Rangers played very solid in this series. Nash, like I said, Nash had to play well, and he did. And Henrik Lundqvist, what can you say? Had a great series. What do you think they need to do in the Ottawa series?
Did you just call him Hendrik Lundqvist?
I did hear that as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Good Lord. It's Henrik.
Sorry.
Not Hendrik.
Sorry. There's an extra D in there. Sorry.
This is why Brian calls this show Brian and the Other Guy.
Wow. This could be the last time we have Jim on the show. Anyway,
No.
Jim, tell us about Ottawa. How do you think the Rangers beat Ottawa?
Well, the Rangers are going to have to find a way to use their speed to discount the slow, boring tactics that Ottawa will undoubtedly deploy against them. And Craig Anderson has played well against the Rangers in the past, so that has me a little bit worried. But I still think the Rangers are the better team, and the way Henrik Lundqvist is playing, I think that'll be the difference. I do think the Rangers are going to win this series. Not that I would ever say otherwise anyway, but I do see the Rangers winning this series in probably 6 games. I think the way the Rangers defense played against Montreal was very impressive, especially Dan Girardi, who was, I can't say enough good things about Dan Girardi in the first round after I did nothing but say bad things about him for the entire regular season. But him and Brendan Smith and Ryan McDonough all did a fantastic job in the first round. They were all stellar. Rick Nash was terrific. He's got to keep that up. And if Chris Kreider finds a way to get his head out of his ass in the second round, the Rangers be in good shape.
Gee, you bring up a really good point there. They did make it through the Montreal series, but there was a couple of big name Rangers who you couldn't find on the side of a milk carton because they were nowhere to be found in that series. Kreider won for sure. JT Miller for another. Kevin Hayes for most of the series didn't seem like he was engaged at all. But again, I guess you could look at it both ways because they made it through Montreal without getting contributions from 3 important players, but if that doesn't change, will Ottawa be more of an issue than maybe they should be?
Absolutely. I mean, you need all your forwards, you need all your players playing at their best, and the Rangers are going to have to kick it up a notch for the second round. That goes for everybody, whether you played well or not in the first round. They need all hands on deck now. In the second round, they want to get to the finals. They want to get to they want to move on. But they can't take Ottawa for granted. Everybody's got to be a contestant. They can't. If Kreider and JT Miller and Kevin Hayes, if they play the same way they did the first round, the Rangers could be in trouble.
And I think you mentioned a little bit too. Some of the players who we thought were going to let us down in the first round really didn't. Rick Nash was the player he probably was 10 years ago as in Columbus. He was an animal in the first round. Didn't really see as much on the score sheet, but he was all over the ice. You mentioned Dan Girardi, who looked like he went back in time to 2007 in the first round, played a phenomenal series. But really Lundqvist especially, for all of the detractors, and really, you're one of them, and frankly, I'm one of them. We both really didn't have a lot of confidence coming into the series based on what we had seen to that point, but give the guy credit. That building up in Montreal is not just his, but this team's house of horrors. They won 2 games up there. It really should have been 3. They took 3 straight games from Carey Price. They played well when they needed to, and I think that bodes well for their second straight series up in the Great North.
Yeah, and I also have to give credit. I have to give a lot of credit to Alain Vigneault because the Rangers, essentially, if you go back and really look at the series, they played 2 completely different styles of play in this series and managed to win one game playing one style, should have been 2, and then managed to win the other 2 games playing the style that they're really more suited for. They probably got away from them a little bit, just trying to, play the tough physical game that Montreal was bringing, which really isn't their style, but they also didn't back down. And, something you also saw in Game 6 that has been sorely lacking for a long time was Montreal was taking a lot of runs at Henrik Lundqvist, and the Rangers weren't having it. They were standing up for their goaltender, they were standing up for each other. There were a lot of things I was really surprised and happy about what they did in the first round.
And you look at
I think a lot of it stems from the coach.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. And you look at their recent playoff runs, and some of the most important players this team saw in round 1 were really guys who had not been on the ride with them before. Primarily Mika Zibanejad, a goal and 3 assists, including the OT winner in Game 5. Brady Shea, I thought, had an excellent series, given the fact that he's so young and he looks like he's got a bright future ahead of him. That's for sure. Even Tanner Glass chipped in, but the one guy who I was really happy, and it wasn't really a score sheet, was a guy you mentioned, Brendan Smith. I think you look back at what the Rangers at the deadline last year, which was Eric Stahl, and how that really blew up in their face in a big way. You bring in a guy like Brendan Smith, 2nd and 3rd round pick for him out of Detroit, and they haven't had a defenseman, I think, of his, not just the physicality, but his openness to get into the scuffles, really since Jeff Bukaboom.
Well, maybe you could throw Samuelson in there.
Yeah. Well,
But I'll tell you what, Brendan Smith is. I have a newfound respect for him. What we saw in the regular season from him, he was okay. But after this series, I think it was Game 4. Game 3 or Game 4. No, it had to be Game 4, I think. He was running to the boards. He was slashed across the wrist. And the guy just kept coming back. He never missed a shift. He just kept coming back out on the ice. He is really, really one tough guy. And that's what they need. And maybe the rest of the defense can feed off that. You never know. But he's really been a key acquisition since the playoffs have started.
So, Jim, we talked before the series about Henrik Lundqvist having to play well in this series, and so far he's played really solid in his first series. And you talk about guys that had to step up. I talked about Rick Nash for one, and Matt Zuccarello, 2 goals in Game 6. Well, what can you say about Zuccarello and Nash? Are they going to continue to play as well as they are? Or do you think they'll probably, maybe go back to, I don't know, tell me your feelings on Zuccarello and Nash for the next series.
Well, Rick Nash had said during the season that he knew he was going to be judged on what he did in the playoffs, and he said that he knew he had not been good enough in the playoffs. So come playoff time, since the playoffs started, he was, like I said, he was terrific against Montreal. I certainly hope that keeps up. I think it will, because he seems like a different player in the playoffs. And, Zuccarello, I hope that keeps up as well, because he's been terrific, and there's always been a knock on him that he wasn't a big playoff performer. Montreal was pounding him like a rag doll the entire series. I think Steve Ott moved into his apartment.
Yeah.
You know, on off days. I mean, it was just ridiculous how much that guy was in Duke's face the entire series. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how Ottawa plays them. But they play that boring trap style, and they're going to try and lull the Rangers to sleep. And they've had success with it during the season. So the Rangers are just going to have to find a way to keep the tempo up. And hopefully they can.
And my last question to you, Jim, is I know Jesper Fast took a hard shot off the skate, blocking a shot, and went to the bench in a lot of pain, but then got back on the ice. Have you heard anything about an injury to him, or is he going to play the next series, or have you heard anything about that? Or
I have not heard about anything regarding him, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention how terrific he was in the series.
He was very good.
If you'd have told me going into the playoffs that Jesper Fast was going to be one of their best forwards, I would have thought that meant they were really in trouble. But it was just the opposite. I think he was terrific. You know, not just offensively, but what he does. He is there's a reason why he won that Players Player Award, I think it's called.
Yes.
Voted on by his teammates. His teammates absolutely love him, and you can see why.
You know, I think Montreal came out in the beginning and had a little bit of a jump, but the Rangers really took control of the series and started banging end to end. And I know that stinks for Montreal because they did, you know, get rid of Subban, the fan favorite for Weber, and that still didn't get him over the top. But hey, hats off to the Rangers because they had a solid series and they definitely earned it, and earned it in 6 they did. So.
And keeping Max Pacioretty off the score sheet didn't hurt.
Yeah. So you look forward to the Ottawa series here, Jimmy, and you look at the matchup. You know, pretty much across the board, the Rangers ranked higher than Ottawa, and again, pretty much everything. They finished ahead of them in points, so they're the wild card. So the series starts in Ottawa because this playoff system is stupid. Their power play and their PK were both bottom third of the league in the regular season. Rangers had the 11th best power play. The PK was 19th. The Rangers score basically a half a goal a game more, a little more than that actually, than Ottawa does. You look at how Montreal really, I felt, struggled with the depth of the Rangers. That's probably the one thing that the Rangers really have over some of the competition, especially in the Eastern Conference, is while you may see some teams that have more talented forwards on the top end, I don't think any team is as deep as the Rangers in that it's hard to put a good defensive pair against the Rangers' third line, for example. Looking at Ottawa, what is something that concerns you about Ottawa going into the series that maybe is like an underlying storyline?
Really, the main thing that concerns me is, like I said before, Craig Anderson has typically played well against the Rangers. I think he shut them out once, maybe twice this year, and I know he's very successful against them in the past. And I just worry about their style of play. They like to slow it down. They like to trap, and the Rangers just have to. They're just going to have to find a way to get through the neutral zone.
I think they definitely have to find a way to score on the power play too. They can't squander chances against Ottawa, even though
they'll never score on the power play. They'll one goal again in this series. As long as the penalty kill is good, hopefully the special teams can balance it out and just be the better team 5-on-5. But power play is a lost cause.
And Jim, I think you made your official prediction, but I'll put you on the spot again. Obviously, you're picking the Rangers to win. Right? That's not a surprise to me to hear that. I believe you said it was 6 games.
Sorry, what was that?
You're picking the Rangers in 6?
Rangers in 6, yeah.
Okay.
that's also what you picked, Brian. What a surprise!
Hey, listen,
And you know what?
minds think alike.
I will also. Well, actually, you guys aren't going to like me. I think Ottawa can pull this series out. I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out series. I think it's going to go 7. But I think Ottawa can pull the series out. Not that I wouldn't be shocked if the Rangers won it too. This could be a series that can go both ways. I just, for some reason, I think Ottawa pulls it out in 7. But we will see. I've been wrong before. What a surprise! But I'll probably be wrong again. So that's all the time we have. We want to thank our guest. You got to check him out. He is one of the co-hosts of the Blueshirt Underground Radio show. Jim Schmiedeberg. Jim, thank you very much for hopping on and joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
And Jim, I will brush up on my Rangers roster, so if they move on to the next series, I will be ready to get you next time. I absolutely sure.
All All right, sounds good. I'll see you guys for the third round.
That's right.
Thank you, Jim. And remember, you can always get the Sports Box on social media if you need to.
Certainly. We're on Twitter at SportsBox Show, on Facebook at SportsBox Show, and of course, you found us on YouTube today. Make sure you subscribe to our wonderful, glorious YouTube channel. Everybody's subscribing except for you, so why don't you go ahead and join the
There's
party.
that glorious again. But anyway, thank you for watching the Sports Box. We got some good stuff coming. If you're a hockey guy, we got some great stuff coming. We're going to have draft stuff, remember.
Absolutely.
Keep in mind. So at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters. I'll give you something harder. It's right here.
Yeah.
See you.
This episode of the Sports Box is brought to you by Mic'd Up Entertainment and DJ Mike Velardi. For all of your event planning needs, make sure you contact Mike at 609-864-5925 and tell him that you saw him on the Sports Box.
1, 2, 3.
Don't forget to subscribe.